Get inside. Hide. Right now. Those were the first words my grandfather said to me that gray Tuesday in October. I had barely touched his front door when he grabbed my sleeve and pulled me over the threshold. His face looked white, not confused, not lost, waiting. I opened my mouth to ask what was wrong. Then I heard tires crunch on the gravel. My mother's car. Grandpa shoved me toward the kitchen and pointed to the narrow space behind the pantry cabinet. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. I ducked into the gap just as the front door opened. If you've ever had one moment rip your whole family in half, you know that feeling. Welcome back to Family Revenge Stories USA 1. The space behind the pantry smelled like cold coffee and old wood. I pressed my back to the wall and folded myself small. My heart hit so hard against my ribs, I thought they would hear it in the next room. My mother's voice came first. Bright, soft, warm in that fake way that only means danger when it comes from someone like her. "Dad, it's just us. Don't get up." 2 more people came in behind her. I knew one set of footsteps right away. Heavy, slow, confident. Her husband, Victor. The third set was quick and sharp. A woman in heels. Someone I had never met. I heard papers hit the coffee table. A thick stack. The kind that lands with weight. My grandfather asked in a weak, drifting voice, "Would anyone like some tea?" Nobody answered. The strange woman spoke instead. "All business today, Mr. Hale. We'll keep this simple. Just a few signatures." That was when my stomach dropped. This was not a visit. It was an operation. I stayed frozen behind the cabinet, staring through a thin crack into the kitchen. And in that moment, I understood one thing. Grandpa had known this was coming. That was why he hid me. You need to know who these people were. I'm Claire Nolan. I'm 34. I'm a geriatric nurse. I spend my days watching families either protect old people or circle them. My mother, Denise, is 57. She has run our family my whole life with moods. When she was warm, everyone relaxed. When she went cold, we all scrambled to fix it. And most of the time, the one giving in was me. Victor, her new husband, was 60. Nice jacket, nice shoes, always talking about deals that never seemed to work out. I had met him maybe 6 times. The woman with the heels, I had never seen her before. But what scared me most wasn't just the papers. 3 weeks earlier, Grandpa had stopped calling me every Sunday. Then a bank letter for him showed up, forwarded to my mother's address. I had noticed. I had even called the bank. They told me I had no standing. Not my account. Not my business. I hung up and told myself I was overthinking. Families forward mail all the time. I wanted that to be true, so badly. Now, crouched behind that pantry, listening to a stranger tell my grandfather to sign, I knew I had not imagined any of it. I had seen it early, and then I let myself doubt it. That part still hurts. The strange woman began explaining the papers in a smooth, practiced voice. "Financial power of attorney," she said. "Once this is signed, your daughter can handle your bills, your bank accounts, all of it. No more stress for you." Then Victor joined in. His voice was soft. That made it worse. "This house is too much for one man," he said. "There's a lovely assisted living place across the county. Once the house sells, it can pay for the best care." My grandfather made a small, lost sound. "What happens to my garden?" he asked. Nobody answered. My mother leaned closer. "Dad, we've been over this. You forget things now. This is for your own good." Then she said the sentence I still hear at night. "He won't remember by Christmas anyway." She didn't say it with anger. She said it with certainty, like she was talking about rain. I bit down on my hand to keep quiet. My eyes burned. Then I saw something through the crack that changed everything. My grandfather's hand was resting on the arm of his chair. It wasn't shaking. It was steady. He had a tiny pencil stub, and hidden against the side of the chair, where none of them could see, he was writing on a scrap of paper. My grandfather was taking notes. The man they had just declared too foggy to manage his own life was writing down every word. My chest tightened. My heart was breaking. But something else was waking up too. He wasn't the one getting trapped. He was building the trap. For the next few minutes, Grandpa gave the performance of his life. He forgot Victor's name twice and called him that fellow from the bank. He asked about the garden again. Then again. Then again. My mother's patience started to crack. "Dad, please," she snapped. There she was, the real Denise. The warm mask slipped. The woman with the papers tried to guide a pen into his hand. He fumbled it. The pen dropped. He apologized in a small, confused voice. I heard Victor let out a tight sigh, like money was taking too long to arrive. Finally, they decided he was too tired to sign that day. My mother said they'd come back on the weekend when he was having a better day. I could hear the disappointment in the room. Then, while they gathered coats and the woman packed up the papers, Grandpa did the thing that told me everything. He slowly turned his head toward the kitchen, toward the exact spot where I was hiding. For 1 second, his eyes were clear, sharp, present. He found me in the dark, and gave the tiniest shake of his head. Stay quiet. Wait. Then the fog rolled back over his face, and he asked nobody at all if it was time for supper. When they finally left, I counted to 60 in the dark. Then Grandpa said in his real voice, low and steady, "You can come out now, Claire." I stepped out on shaking legs. He was standing by the window, looking at the empty driveway. When he turned to me, he looked 10 years younger and 100 years more tired. "What is happening?" I asked. He pulled me into a hug that smelled like cedar and pencil shavings. Then he told me everything. He had suspected for months that my mother and Victor were after the house, so he started acting forgetful. He wanted them to relax, to show him the full plan, instead of stealing one piece at a time. "If I had told you your mother was doing this," he said, "you would have found a way to doubt me. You needed to hear it yourself. That was why he hid me. Not panic. Strategy." Then he took the scrap of paper from his pocket and pressed it into my hand. On it was a name, Lydia Mercer, and under it a number, 18,000. "That's what's gone," he said. "In 3 months. Small withdrawals. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Spread out. Quiet. Careful." When he called the bank, he learned someone had been added to help him. That help had been draining him. He stopped calling me on Sundays because my mother had started showing up on Sundays. He didn't want her knowing how close we still were. Everything I had half noticed snapped into one clear picture. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. A real one. The house. His retirement. The little memorial fund he had kept in my grandmother's name. Everything was on the table. And worst of all, so was his dignity. "I'm not afraid of dying," he told me quietly. "I'm afraid of being erased while I'm still alive." I looked at the papers on the coffee table, the pen beside them, and I thought of my mother saying he wouldn't remember by Christmas. "They are not getting this house," I said. He almost smiled. "Then we better move fast," he said. "Your mother has a key." That night I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table and researched what happens when families turn on their own old people. What I found made my stomach sink. Adult children are the most common abusers in elder financial cases. Not strangers, not phone scammers, their own kids. Nearly 40% of reported cases involve children draining a parent. And once a power of attorney is signed, it can be brutally hard to undo. If my mother got that signature, she wouldn't be sneaking anymore. She'd be hiding inside the law. At 2 a.m, I started writing down everything. Dates, amounts, the forwarded mail, the papers, the woman in heels, my mother's exact words. By sunrise, I had a plan. It started with one phone call. Lydia Mercer remembered my grandfather the second I said his name. "Henry Hale," she said. "Sharpest man in Briar Glen. How is he?" I told her the truth. The warmth left her voice fast. She laid it out plain. As long as he had not signed, we still had a chance. But that chance was shrinking. We needed 3 things. Proof he was mentally competent. Proof of the money that had already moved. And a report to Adult Protective Services. Then she lowered her voice. "If they plan to get this signed this weekend, we are talking days, Claire. Not weeks." I asked what mattered most. "You're a nurse," she said. "Get him a real capacity evaluation." Their whole plan rests on one lie. That he doesn't know what he's doing. Prove he does. So I called Dr. Foster, a geriatrician I had worked with for 6 years. Careful. Exact. The kind of man who checked his own double checks. He booked Grandpa for Thursday. A full evaluation. Real testing. Real scores. Something that would stand anywhere. When I told Grandpa, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Good. Let them say I'm gone. I'll take the test and prove I'm here." The next morning, my mother called me. Her voice was sweet. That was my first warning. She only sounded that nice when she wanted something. "Sweetheart, she said. "I've been meaning to talk to you about your grandfather." She told me he was slipping, that she and Victor were only trying to protect him, that she'd hate for him to sign a bad contract or get scammed. The irony almost made me laugh. But underneath all that honey, I heard the real question. She was fishing. She wanted to know what I knew. The old me would have rushed to smooth things over. "Not this time." "That's really sad, Mom," I said. And then I gave her nothing else. There was a little silence, a recalculation. Then she mentioned Grandpa's 80th birthday party at the end of the month. "The whole family is coming. Neighbors, the pastor, everyone. It'll be lovely, lovely." I heard the weight under that word. She was building an audience. That same week, I took Grandpa to the bank. He changed the mailing address back to his house and asked for 6 months of account records. We sat across from a young banker named Caleb. He kept glancing at his screen and looking more nervous by the minute. Grandpa asked why his statements were going to his daughter's address, asked who had added Victor to one of his accounts. Caleb turned red. The changes had been submitted with a limited authorization. A notarized signature card. Everything technically in order. That was the nightmare part. We did everything right and still hit a wall. Then Caleb said the sentence that made my blood go cold. Someone had already called ahead to tell the bank that a power of attorney naming my mother was coming any day now. The document wasn't signed yet, but the ground had been prepared. They weren't waiting on the bank. They were waiting on him. That night, I looked up the woman in heels. Her name was Colleen Price. She called herself an elder care consultant. She was not a lawyer, not a licensed social worker. She was a notary with a side business helping families with transitions. The reviews told the rest. Fast signings, confused seniors, relatives kept out. One family said she got their father to sign while he was on pain medication. She worked on commission. To Colleen, my grandfather was not a person. He was a deal. Then I found the detail that made me shut my laptop and stare at the wall. Her booking page showed a long appointment block on the afternoon of Grandpa's birthday. Saturday. No name. Just a signing session. Lined up perfectly with the party my mother had just mentioned. They weren't using the party as cover. The party was the plan. Thursday came. Dr. Foster tested Grandpa for nearly 2 hours. When they came out, he looked at me over his glasses and said, "One of the sharpest 80-year-olds I've seen in years. Fully oriented. Strong recall. Sound judgment." He put it all in writing. The wall was going up. Then, in the car, Grandpa handed me an old cookie tin. It had belonged to my grandmother. "Open it at home," he said. "Read the letter first." That night, I opened it at my kitchen table. On top was a letter from my grandmother, Evelyn, written a few weeks before she died. It was for the family, for the day it mattered. She wrote about how money can spoil people, how inheritance can turn family into strangers. Then she wrote one line about my mother that undid me. She knew Denise had always felt unloved. She wrote that some of that hurt was real, and some of it was a story my mother told herself. But both kinds of hurt can rot a person from the inside. Then I saw what was under the letter. Grandpa's original will, and a deed of intention. The house had never been meant to go to any of us. It was supposed to fund a nursing scholarship in my grandmother's name. The house was not meant to be sold. It was meant to send young women through nursing school. I sat there a long time with my mother's voice in my head. "He won't remember by Christmas anyway." Oh, he would remember. The doctor had proved it. My grandmother had left the reason in a cookie tin. Now I just had to make sure the whole town saw it too. Friday, I filed the report with Adult Protective Services. I laid it out cleanly. The forwarded mail, the 18,000 in withdrawals, the added authorized user, the pending power of attorney, Colleen's commission work, her booked appointment, the doctor's report proving Grandpa was competent. I also called the National Elder Fraud Hotline and asked what rights he had. They walked me through it, call by call, form by form. Nobody handed me victory. I built it myself. The caseworker took it seriously. She opened an investigation. Then she said the thing I feared most. These cases take time. Weeks. Maybe more. I drove home knowing the system would not save him at that party. If he was going to be protected, it would happen in that living room. And I would have to do it. My mother found out about the doctor. I still don't know how. Maybe someone called to confirm. Maybe Victor had a contact. Maybe she just sensed the ground moving under her. She called me Saturday. "No honey this time." "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed. "Digging through his accounts? Taking him to doctors behind my back?" She called me selfish, a troublemaker, said I was tearing the family apart. Then she reached for the oldest weapon she had. A real daughter would trust her mother. For 34 years, that line would have folded me in half. This time it didn't. "I love Grandpa," I said, "and I'm not going to be quiet." She went silent, truly stunned. Then she said I'd regret it and hung up. By the next day, she moved fast. She changed the locks on Grandpa's house for his safety. She told relatives I was manipulating him, that I was after the house, that I had been dragging him to doctors and digging through his money. She was good. 2 cousins stopped answering my texts. For 2 days, I couldn't reach Grandpa at all. That silence was the worst part. Then one night, driving past my mother's house, I saw her in her car with both hands over her face. Crying. Real crying. That was when I understood something else. Victor's business had collapsed. Their savings were gone. They were closer to losing their own house than anyone knew. For 1 second, I felt pity. Then I remembered Grandpa asking about his garden, and her saying he wouldn't remember by Christmas. Pity found its right size. Scared does not mean innocent. I got to Grandpa through the one door my mother couldn't lock. My job. My friend Marissa ran a real home health service. Grandpa requested a wellness visit himself. My mother couldn't stop that without looking guilty. Marissa went. She checked him properly. Then she called me from her car. "He's fine," she said. "Sharp. Eating well. Clear-eyed." Then she gave me Grandpa's message. Before the locks changed, he had already signed a limited legal authorization with Lydia Mercer. Not a power of attorney. Not surrender. A narrow document protecting his money while he stayed fully in charge. He had built his own countermove. I had thought I was rescuing him. But this was not a rescue. It was a partnership. Marissa laughed softly before hanging up. "He told me to tell you one more thing," she said. "Don't worry about the party. Let them bring their papers." That week, Lydia helped me plan. She gave me the best advice of the whole ordeal. "Do not accuse your mother too soon," she said. "Let her make her pitch. Let her commit to the story in front of everyone. Then answer with facts." So I built a folder. Dr. Foster's evaluation. The bank records. The APS confirmation. The records on Colleen Price. My grandmother's letter. The original will. At the very back, the deed showing the house was meant to fund the scholarship. A cousin finally answered my texts and told me the rest of the party plan. After cake, my mother would gather everyone. Give a speech about how hard things had been. How Grandpa's memory was failing. How she had to step in. Then Colleen would bring the papers. And in front of the pastor, the neighbors, and the whole family, she would have him sign. She was manufacturing witnesses. But witnesses cut both ways. She thought she was gathering support. Really, she was gathering my jury. The night before the party, Grandpa and I talked for a long time. Then he said, "Do you remember what I told you that day? Get inside. Hide right now." He was quiet for a second. "That was the last time you'll ever need to hide from your mother. Tomorrow, you stand where everyone can see you." Then he told me one more thing. He was going to play the fog one last time. He wanted her to go all the way. To say every damning thing in front of everyone before he dropped the act. "One last performance," he said. "Then no more pretending. For either of us." The party looked like love. That was the awful part. Gold balloons. Blue frosting. Neighbors smiling. The pastor shaking hands. My mother glowing in the middle of it all, playing devoted daughter. Victor stood by the wall with a drink he wasn't drinking. Colleen waited by the hallway with her leather folder. Grandpa sat by the window looking small and vague. He didn't even look at me. He was deep in character. Then my mother tapped a fork against her glass. The room quieted. "Everyone," she said, tears ready on command. "I have an announcement about Dad." She was good, painfully good. She talked about memory loss, confusion, love, duty. Then she gestured to Colleen. "So today, with all of you here, Dad is going to sign financial power of attorney to me out in the open so everyone can see this is his wish." Colleen uncapped a pen. Grandpa looked up with damp, confused eyes. "Is it time for cake?" he asked softly. A few people laughed. That was the moment. I stepped forward. "Before Grandpa signs anything," I said, "I think everyone here should hear a few things first." The room turned. My mother's smile stayed in place, but her eyes went cold. "Claire," she said, "this isn't the time. It's exactly the time." I opened the folder and laid down the first page. "This is a full cognitive evaluation from Dr. Foster, done 3 days ago. It says my grandfather is completely competent." A murmur moved through the room. I laid down the next page. "These are his bank records. $18,000 was withdrawn in 3 months. Money he did not take." Next page. "This shows Victor was added to one of his accounts." Next page. "This is confirmation that Adult Protective Services has opened an investigation into financial abuse." Then I turned to Colleen. "She is not a lawyer. She is not a social worker. She is a notary who gets paid to get elderly people to sign fast before anyone can object." I didn't raise my voice once. I didn't have to. Then Lydia stepped in from the doorway. "I'm Henry Hale's attorney," she said. "He gave me limited authority 2 weeks ago while fully competent because he knew this was coming." Colleen went pale, picked up her folder, and left, just like that. Then the room looked at Victor. "The 18,000 went into an account with your name on it," I said. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Then my grandfather stood, not like a weak man, like a judge. The fog was gone. Every person in that room saw it disappear. "I am not confused," he said. "I haven't been. I let them think I was slipping, so they would show me the whole plan." He looked around the room. "I asked my granddaughter to hide in my kitchen the day they first came with those papers, so she would hear it herself. Everything she has shown you is true, and nothing gets signed in this house today." I stepped beside him. "No one signs anything today, Mom," I said. "It's over." That was when my mother broke. All the warmth cracked off. "You have no idea what I gave this family," she shouted. 40 years I stood in his shadow while he gave everything to everybody else, and I got nothing. She pointed at him, then at me. The louder she got, the smaller she looked. I didn't shout back. I just let her keep talking. Every word buried her deeper. When she finally stopped, shaking, I said softly, "Get inside. Hide right now." She stared at me. "That's what Grandpa told me the day you came for his house." I hid. I listened. I heard everything. I'm not hiding anymore. And neither is he. Then I held up Dr. Foster's report. "You said he wouldn't remember by Christmas," I said. "He'll remember this Christmas. And every one after it." The pastor stepped forward and led her outside. Victor was already gone. When the door shut, the house went quiet. Grandpa let out a long breath. Then he smiled faintly. "Well," he said, "who wants cake?" And somehow people laughed. In the weeks after, the truth did its work. APS confirmed what we already knew. The power of attorney died before it could take hold. Most of the 18,000 was traced and recovered. Colleen was reported. Victor disappeared once the easy money disappeared. My mother was not arrested. Grandpa could have pushed for that. He chose not to. "She's still my daughter," he said. "I don't want her in a cell. I want her out of my life and out of my accounts." That is what he got. He stayed in his house, in his garden, with his own key in his own pocket, and my grandmother's wish finally came true. We created the Evelyn Hale Nursing Scholarship exactly the way she wanted. Grandpa asked me to help run it. I said yes before he finished asking. As for me, that living room changed the rest of my life. I walked in as a nurse who had spent 34 years folding herself small to keep the peace. I walked out knowing silence had never protected anyone. So I started volunteering with an elder rights group. Now I sit beside scared old people in offices and hearings. I bring facts. I bring folders. I ask hard questions. And I do not back down. If there is one thing I learned behind that pantry cabinet and in the middle of that birthday party, it's this. Protecting the people who raised us is not betrayal. Staying quiet while they are robbed is. That is how a whisper became a stand. A hidden granddaughter. A quiet nurse. And one birthday that saved a home. If someone you love is being pushed to sign something they do not understand, don't wait. Ask questions. Keep records. Make the call. And if stories like this matter to you, stay with Family Revenge Stories USA 1.